Good afternoon. It feels like an afternoon. It depends on how sober you are. If you're drunk right now, it's probably still morning to you, but it is afternoon technically. So we are at 12:15 Best Coast time. Is your good friend Rafa Esparza coming to you live right now with a guest who is providing new opportunities for both MMA athletes and grapplers. But here's the nice part about them. They are gentlemen who I have known for a couple of years by proxy. We've run in circles at the same points and times because a lot of the people they've been helping out are locals out here in California who I have been very happy to see them help out. So whenever I see stuff like that, I always get excited. And I'm even more excited that next Saturday they're going to have a amateur MMA event that is coming up out that way, and there are going to be a lot of familiar faces, so we wanted to get to the bottom of it. We're very happy that they were able to take time out of their schedule. Today we are talking with Alan Soren of MMA Events Inc. Alan, sir, how are you doing?
Man, every day's a good day. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing great. I just, what the nice part is like, I love looking at a schedule and being able to say, like, oh, I have an interview at 12, and I get to talk grappling and MMA. So I'm in a great mood.
For sure.
So tell me a little bit about this. How did you guys, form an organization? And I have to apologize in advance because there's occasions or two where I want to say MMA Inc. Events, and then I stop and I'm like, no, I think that's my dyslexia starting up again.
That's cool. We started it 8 years ago, just early 2000s. I mean, I got hooked on MMA. I just, whatever I could find on DVDs or anywhere on the internet, I just watched it. I was always a fight fan. And then I got into the gyms and started training, and I just saw fights up close and saw the game and saw what needed to change. And I had a lot of fighters that were friends of mine, and they were very open with what ideas they had. And a few years later, we were like, we want to do all ages grappling because no one's doing it. We wanted to make kids feel welcome because we saw the interest, kind of what Dream BJJ. I want to give them a shout out because they're fantastic. We love them. We support them. What they're doing for the sport is tremendous. We were kind of doing that on a much smaller scale. And then we were approached by somebody and said, why don't you guys host MMA events? You're such big fans. And we didn't know anything about it. So we just said, okay, well, let's just create a company. We made a simple name, simple brand, and we just went for it. And it's been tremendous. We're on our fifth event, third one in Pasadena. We try to go at a slower pace because we don't feel rushed. We don't feel pressure. And then now we're international. Now we hosted the first ever sanctioned bouts in Belize. We're going back. We're probably going to host the first ever professional bouts out there. And all it is we just want to grow the sport, and we want to work with the fighters because that's the one thing that we thought was the missing key is giving them feedback, guidance, giving them a place where they feel safe to be themselves and perform their art. And I mean, I feel lucky as heck, man. I mean, that's the truth. I'm just grateful for this opportunity. But we started it really with this just out of curiosity, man, just because we're fans. We just took it to the next level. So.
Well, that's great. I like the want and the desire to provide something that's missing. I think that's kind of the same thing I usually advise to people when they come up and they say they want to start a podcast. My first advice is no, don't. And then after that, they're always like, oh, you just don't want competition. I was like, no, I just don't like bad products. Like, if you start something, you need to have a very clear vision of what you're trying to do. So I always tell people, I'm like, what's your first sentence to your podcast? What's your first sentence to your business? That elevator pitch is so key. And then I say the reason why you have to have that on lock is because that's what you spend hours up at night doing. And that passion just doesn't manufacture itself. It doesn't happen on episode 3. It's just like you better be able to have it episode 1. So I always think of that. When you say that you were ready to go ahead and start transitioning to actually hosting and making events, do you remember a clear moment when you said, oh, this seems like it's missing something? Or do you remember the clear moment that you said, like, yeah, I'm going to do this because, my life isn't stressful enough?
Yeah, I can remember the exact moment. We're living in Laverne. We're working with local gyms, just kind of helping them connect with the community. And so what the cool thing about that is, as new students were coming into these gyms, I could ask after a week or two, I would just stop by and say, hey, how's everything going? Well, what do you think? What do you think you guys need? And I thought they were going to say, oh, we need better mats, or we need we need bags, we need gloves, just stuff like that. Like, hey, how can I get equipment? And they said, you know what, man? Like, I want to fight. I want to fight for someone that cares about me. And that was kind of weird to me, bro. Like, it was very interesting. I told some of the instructors, some of the gym teachers, I was like, I don't think that they think you don't care about them, but there's no like set goal. There's no set, like, how do I become pro? How do I grow? How do I get more exposure for my fights? There's only so many promotions that seem to be connecting them. And that was like my main thing. So I just started talking to as many fighters as possible, as many competitors as possible. I guess we kind of just figured it out. And we were like, okay, so no one's in Pasadena. We don't want to ruffle any feathers. We don't want to step on toes. We don't want to fight for territory. And we already had a good relationship with quite a few local gyms, just because of our communication and our honesty. And we were like, okay, so how do we do this? So we actually contacted Camo, which we liked. We liked Camo a lot. We said, what do we need to do? They said, you need to register with us. You need to find a venue. You need to find a cage. And they gave us guidance, and we just looked at each other, and we had a moment. We were like, what, can we do this? And we're like, we won't know until we try. And we signed on the dotted line, and it's been great ever since. We've just been very fortunate. We had great feedback from the community, great feedback from the fighters. We literally had, after the weigh-ins, we sat down with a group of them and said, what do you guys want from us? And you could tell they've never been asked that question before. And a lot of them said, bright lights. We want more cameras. We want to interact with the fans. We want our sponsor shirts, and we need sponsorships. And so we said, okay, cool. Like, this is a lot to take in. So we just said, everyone's invited. We invited as much press, as much media as possible. We said, okay, like, you have full access. Like, just blow these guys' brands up. If a fighter ever needs a sponsorship, or if they need help, we'll take anyone. We answer every phone call. We reply to every email. Some fighters don't come. They don't believe it. They don't see it. But if they ever need anything, they can come to us. So if they need a sponsorship, we'll try to find you one. If they want a new gym, or if they want to promote themselves, we'll provide that platform. If they do private lessons one-on-one, or if they do, personal training at the gym, we'll help them. We'll give them a shout out. We'll say, hey, hit them up if you want to work out, if you want to lose weight, or if you want to become a master at this, we'll help them grow. So I feel like I'm just rambling, because there's so much to cover for such a simple thing, like, hey, basically we just throw an event, put on a fight card, and hopefully, and the fans show up and they have a great time, and everyone goes home. But there's so much more to it.
Well, I think that's what you're trying to figure out is the thing that keeps you separate from everybody else. Is you do see a lot of organizations that treat their fighters well. I can think of a number of grappling organizations that treat their fighters really well. I don't know that they get brought in the fold on the creative process, because I'll tell you this much. Usually creative and production is a whole different beast that talent never really gets a part of. So the fact that the fighters can kind of see how it's made, and, I'm pretty sure you get some fighters who are like, I don't need anything, because they've never been asked. They just go like, I don't know. I don't know what I need. And then all of a sudden, like a week later, they're like, hey man, I was thinking about it because no one ever asked me before. So can I, like, get some tape? And you're like, yeah, kid, okay, don't, Jesus, okay. That's how scared this event has made people, is they feel afraid to ask for anything. So I feel like that's
I love it, man. I'm
thing,
like,
man.
Tape, what else? You want you want shoelaces, dude? I got you. Like, I don't know. They're putting so much on the line at such a young stage of their life and their careers. And there could be one injury or one crazy knockout highlight that goes viral. And we've seen it before. We've seen guys with 4 fights that are very marketable, or just, they got a great highlight reel and they go pro, and they may start making money, and they start providing for their family, and they start growing. And then they don't have to worry about working 2 or 3 jobs plus training. And that's the reality that we're in right now. So a lot of these guys, their stories are special. They work so hard. They work way harder than I do, man. And then they get in the cage for 45 seconds and it's all on the line and the fight's over after that. Or they go for 15 minutes and the fight's over after that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure. And these guys are young.
That's true.
And the females too, man. We have been told by a few female fighters, like that they prefer to work with us. They prefer to talk to us because we don't just try to overexpose anyone. We don't use anyone's image without their permission. We don't we don't try to sell the wrong selling points, I guess.
It's good to know. All right. So along those lines, so you said that you were kind of starting to train. What were you looking to train at the very beginning, and how did you find yourself into the world of mixed martial arts?
Man, I haven't talked about this in a while, but the true story, are we allowed to cuss on this? Can this be real?
All you want. No, just because I'm pretending to be professional for a little while and not cursing doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah. No, I mean, we knew a gentleman who was a black belt, a Red Dragon black belt. And we waited till we graduated high school, and a bunch of our friends just said, we could take him. Red Dragon's nothing. And this is a true story, and I don't care what anyone thinks, man. A few of us, we tried to jump this guy, and he beat us up at the beach at a church party, at a church.
Hold on, let's stop here. Okay. Now, I know that you're saying you don't care what anybody's thinking here, but I do want to get some clarification. When you say you're going to jump somebody, is the first part maybe a warning sign where you go, hey, it's a good time to go attack somebody at a church party, or do you not know that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when your friends say, come on, man, this guy, and then he took care of us. He handled us. And we all started laughing, and we were all friends, and it was amazing. He was flipping all of us. It was like Jackie Chan, Steven Seagal, Jason Bourne before all that. And I saw it face to face, and I was like, martial arts is amazing. I know nothing. I am humbled. And I started going to classes, and that was it, man. I just said, this is beautiful. I was hooked. I saw him with a smile on his face, just protect himself and laugh and shake our hands afterwards. And we all laughed. And now 4 out of those guys, we all started training martial arts after that. And it hasn't stopped since. And now it's an art form. It's beautiful. It's special. It can teach you the discipline and the humbleness, and it can center you as well. And I hope that everyone, if I could bottle all that and sell that, and I'd be a multimillionaire. I'm super grateful for that because I really feel like the sport kind of saved my life, man. I really do. It really helped me out, and it focused me up.
Okay, I need to clarify here. Just a little bit. What about this guy? Okay, I guess this is the more prevalent question.
Yeah.
How much alcohol was on the intake for you to
0.
say there was 0 alcohol? So you don't even have that as an out?
No, man. I guess you're young, you're full of testosterone, you think you can take on the world, you want to be able to take on the world, and so you hear someone say I can fight, I know this, I know that, and you kind of don't believe them. And so, my buddies were like, come on, dude, let's go see. He always says he can take us. And so, it was just hilarious, dude. It really was. I wouldn't say, it wasn't malicious. We didn't have clubs. We didn't have weapons.
No, I ascertained
we were very
that.
sheltered, bro.
You didn't just commit a super felony, so it's not like you just admitted to something here. I'm curious because it sounds like the villain in an 80s film is guys, let's change our ways.
Just to clarify, that guy that handled us and humbled us, that's my business partner, my best friend. And we've been best friends since before that and after that. And, I'm the godfather to his kid, and he's Dustin. He really did. He handled it. And now we're all still best friends. We talk about that all the time because he would kind of say some things to keep us in line, to keep us from talking at the inappropriate times, to get us to pay attention in church, to get us to kind of focus, and to, I was real involved with youth group throughout high school, and he was a great mentor and a great guy. But sometimes when we would get rowdy or get rude, and you're young and you're teenagers, and you need discipline, you kind of need to be told, hey, Can you keep it down? Or can you not run? Or can you not stop goofing off? Like, this is not the appropriate time. And we waited till after high school and we were like, come on, man, like we're grown men too. Like, it's not true. It's just not true. It's like the story of like those cocky guys like going into a gym and saying that they could beat anybody up. Like, it's not good. You need to get humbled. And I'm super grateful that it happened.
Again, it's hilarious to me because most of the guys who do that sort of stuff, they fade away. Like they choose to never come back. You never see them anymore. On rare instances, I've heard, there's a good friend of mine named Brandon McCatherine, and he owns a gym. He's a jiu-jitsu owner for a 10th Planet out in Alabama.
Okay.
And you got to figure that, you're going to get those walk-ins in a place like Alabama every once in a while that somebody thinks that they walk in and they can show themselves. So what he did was he's like, dude, you can pick any position you want that you could start from, and we can go from there. And he basically, to this guy's knowledge a little bit later, I guess, is he collected his security cam footage and put it on the internet and narrated how, like, oh, here's me coming around. This guy thinks he's going to get me right here, and then I just spin around, and then I beat him again. And if you know anything about this guy named Brandon, he's a very lovable, sweet guy that, like, of course, is not going to back down when he's a jiu-jitsu instructor and is like, oh, I can kill you, but I'm really nice. And so, that thing has over 1 million hits now on the internet. Like, that's how good it was. And there was, I think that guy ended up signing up for like a day. And he was like, he goes, I'm so excited because I get to teach this guy. And now, like, he's not going to be and he quit. And I remembered being like, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure people saw the internet. And I'm pretty sure that people saw that video a couple times. So, it was a good dream to have with him. Yeah. But yeah, those sorts of things happen. Now, what was your background before coming into producing and making MMA events? Because I think one of the weirdest things about getting those narrative stories is, sure, you guys are just starting and you guys are building momentum and steam, but people forget that Dana White was essentially a bellhop who was parking cars before he was doing the UFC. Yeah. And he just happened to know two random guys who said, we need a president who just speaks his mind and doesn't really care what people think. So what is the origin story for you, sir?
I mean, my background is mostly restaurants and hospitality. My first job was In-N-Out Burger. And they treat you well, and they treat you with respect.
They really do treat you well, but I have to ask this. You worked at In-N-Out, okay.
Yeah.
So how much mess have you gotten over the years for the burger wars? Do you believe that In-N-Out is the best retail chain burger? I guess that's what I have to put you on the spot now to ask.
I love their product, and I worked my way up. I got part of the opening team, and as I saw them unfold, they have a following and they have a discipline. There is an organization, and everything is hand inspected 4 or 5 times. You can't beat that. I've worked in a few restaurants and bars since then. I left that company back a few years ago. They treated me very well. I have nothing but the utmost respect for them, and they give a lot of money back to charity. They're very profitable with what they do. I made very good money for the time and for the work, and they paid I think $12 an hour back then, which was tremendous.
I remember
paid vacations, paid time off.
I remember a host of my friends going into doing working at In-N-Out when I was a kid, and I remembered seeing them and going hey, what made you choose In-N-Out? And they were like, look at how we get paid. And I was like, okay. And then I saw they're like, okay, well, look at the people who are sticking around. Those benefits are good. So a lot of those people who are looking to start a family, you start thinking they're providing for these people. That's actually a really good model for them.
Mm-hmm. And they give you other opportunities to learn. And I still have my 401k. I just rolled that one over. They work with Fidelity. So there's not a lot of companies that offer all that at a young age. And then they teach you, they guide you, they'll help you. If you need anything, you can ask your boss and he'll probably help you. So I was very fortunate to work with them and to move up with them. And then I got into bartending. And then I got into the corporate side of BJs Restaurants, and I fell in love with that. And I think I'm just addicted to chaos because opening restaurants is hard. There's a lot of moving parts. And I have the ability to stand in the middle of that chaos and smile. And they appreciated that, and they gave me an opportunity to grow. And so I would be in charge of a certain amount of staff, and then I got in charge of even more staff, and then I got in charge of the development of the training and how we verbalize and how we teach and why we guide them into the right path. We don't force them. We educate, or we tell, show, do, review. That was a wonderful project that we did. And what it is it just makes the process simpler, and you try to retain your employees. And then that was one of the reasons why I had to stop training, because they were like, hey, no scuff marks, no markings, like you got to be professional and you want to grow. And that was great. It's a good learning environment. And expanding into new markets, that's very tough. Going into new states is very hard. Customer service is very hard. Logistics is very hard too, getting supply chains to new states. I think that definitely prepared me for this a lot. And then most recently, I've been working for a beer manufacturing company. We make beer equipment. I love my job. I think I'm very lucky. It allows me to do this more. So that's why in the past year and a half, we've been able to do more events. And then after our third event, we went to Belize. Because our partner, Ron, he's from Belize. He's born and raised in Belize. He said, I want to bring the sport there. And we said, okay, wherever chance we can grow the sport or educate or make new fans, that's where we're going to be. So we spent time down there. We worked with a lot of local gyms, a lot of local government. There's a lot of interesting things and opportunities down there. And we had a very, very successful, amazing, and I can get emotional about this, man. I mean, people had never seen the sport in person. And they're jumping up and down, they're cheering, they're hugging. The fighters are going into the crowd. We had local Belizeans and Guatemalans and Mexicans and people from all over South America were part of this, and that was amazing. We're going back in a second. We were able to take Albert Morales. He's from there. We were able to provide, and all we did was take him down there and just give free clinics. And that guy works super hard. That guy's an animal, nothing but respect. If anybody ever wants to go down there, just hit us up. Like, if you're interested in growing the sport or growing your brand, like, it's a very, very happy place, man. It's very special. It's beautiful too. So you can't complain about being near the beach and growing the sport that you love. It's perfect.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to go through these one by one. But I want to make it very clear. You made it through the entire answer without saying if you thought that In-N-Out was the best burger, period. So I want to make sure. Because here's the thing. That's fine. I'm not trying to ruin your 401k. You just said you rolled it over. So I'm paying attention here. I want to make sure that people understand. Because here's what we get. We're not just local here on the podcast. I have people who watch this show from all around, which means I get nonsense from people who are like, Five Guys is the best. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with grappling. And they're like, well, when I cut weight, I get a Five Guys burger. And I was like, that's awesome. So as a local LA person for all of my life, I'm curious because I understand there are amazing burgers and people have their different types that they love, but do you have something that you love more? Are you a Five Guys person in disguise? Because if you are, okay, good. Then we can continue.
Not Five Guys, not White Castle, not, working for BJs and going to new markets, I always wanted to try whatever the heck was new or local in that area. Nobody makes a more consistent product, and I think no one cares more about every single burger. I love In-N-Out. I'll eat In-N-Out. I've never been sick of it. But I love I would like my own burger just barbecued by me and by my family in that environment, bro. Like, there's just no other way to put it. Like, it's all about the setting and it's all about the environment with me.
Sure. I just want to make sure.
I think of all the restaurants. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I see what you're asking. Okay, 100%.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's never been a moment your barbecue's so weak, dog. It's so weak you can't name yours. No, I was like, just as a restaurant chain, because I think it's unfair. You may have some sort of secret thing that you know that I don't, especially with all of your work in the restaurant industry, which is, hey man, there are certain restaurants that you can go to that are sit-down restaurants where they present you a burger and you go, what is this? This is magnificent.
Yeah, I'm with it.
So I get that. All right. Can I ask a question? Because I am curious. Just the way that you're describing kind of the business model of how you were including the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds very similar to the in-and-out process that you were raised with in terms of like how you could go to your uppers and you could go to the people who were in charge and ask them questions and they could provide for you. It seems very similar. That sense of giving back is something that maybe has stuck with you. Have you considered that?
No, not until you said that. That's awesome. I mean, I've definitely had other jobs. I just would leave them, or if I felt like, hey, like no one cares about you, like I would just quit. So it's no big deal to me. But I was fortunate that I had opportunities to quit and that I had could work more than one job or take time off. But no, I guess you're absolutely right. I was always just kind of raised like, if you have a question, ask. If you have a concern or if you have an idea, if you have a new way of doing this assembly line or making this, like, bring it up, talk about it, show us why this is faster, why this might work. So I guess you're right. I grew up in that open door policy and I appreciated it. And when you make someone else feel important, just like when someone makes me feel heard or listened to, like what we're doing right now, like to me, there's nothing else in the human experience that matters. Like if you're not communicating or working with each other, like what's the point, man? Like you're just going to be lonely. So I want everyone to be able to come to us and grow with us. So I guess you're absolutely right.
It's just, I mean, again, it's, it's one of those things where as a host you can take shots in the dark. It's just very strange that the phraseology was very similar to how you were providing it. So that's something that just stuck out to me where I go, does he hear this? Because I hear it. And again, I have no stock in In-N-Out. I just like their burger. This is separate from it. It's more the business practice, and more importantly, one that's specific to you. Because I don't know that happens in every In-N-Out. I just know that their business culture tends to be very positive to the people who work there.
Yeah.
The very thing that you're describing, though, is something that is very interesting that maybe has longer lasting implications, and one that allowed you the opportunities that when you went to these other jobs, you're like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to do this. So, having said that, all right, so let's talk a little bit about this Belize trip or at least Belize trips. Because I've seen the guys. So, I know a host of the same people. There's a nice Venn diagram where there's a middle ground where I know most of those guys. Albert and us go way, way back. I've known him for almost 5-6 years now. And, he's part of the Verbal Tap family.
Yeah.
Same with Milton and Jordan. They're very, very close to us. So when did you say Belize and how did you say Belize? Because I get the idea of you guys saying it was beautiful, but when I'm looking to put on an organization and put on fights, I don't pull out the globe. I look at a map of Southern California and go, all right, where's everybody not doing one? And where can we get a good market return? Right. So Belize just kind of is like, you guys were going worldwide ambition very quickly.
Yeah. Well, we 2 years into it, we had a small hiccup with the business side. One of our partners did so we had to let someone go. We had to cut ties with someone, and it kind of set us back for like a year and a half. And we wanted to learn. We didn't want to make the same mistake. So we brought in another person to help us with the business. His name's Ron. Great dude. He looked at us and said, have you guys ever been to Belize? And we said, where is Belize? And he's like, well, I'm from there. I'm born there. They speak English. It's in South America. It's like 80% ocean. And they use the American dollar. And there is no gyms. There's no MMA. Like, can we do this? And so we went out there just like as family, like as friends. And, what do you – like you're not going to challenge yourself. It's not that much fun. So he said, let's do this. So we back each other up, we want to support each other. So he said, well, let's go to Belize. Let's have a meeting. Let's see if they'll allow it in the country. And they said, yes, like, let's do this. Like, here's a venue. We found one. And then we looked at Camo. We called Camo and we said, hey, we want to do it right. We don't know how to create a sanctioning governing body. Can you guys help? And Camo was amazing, man. And so it was just fortuitous. It was very, very lucky. We asked certain people for help, and they all said yes. And so if without their assistance, without their help, and our sponsor said, heck yeah, like let's go. We'll help you guys. And then We just created some relationships. Some fighters were talking to us more, and so we went to those fighters and we said, "Hey, would you guys be interested?" And they said, "Yeah." And it was just mind blowing. And then we went down to local gyms down there and we said, "Hey, this is what we want to do. Are you guys interested?" And they said, "Yeah." So it was it was a lot of asking questions, and then we just went for it. And it was hard and it was stressful, and I don't think I slept that entire week. You're driving around in a country you're not familiar with. You're working with people. No one else has been there before, and you want everyone to enjoy themselves and see themselves. But at the end of the day, we got work to do. We got to grow the sport. We got to make a successful event. And luckily, the community opened their arms to us. We are very lucky, very, very lucky. And now there's an organization down there called Pro FC. They're doing their thing. The sport is growing. We work with all the local gyms. I try to call Belize once a week. You don't want to lose friendships like that. It's important. And hopefully we can take you. We have a lot of people calling and say, "Hey, how can we go?" And we're like, "Just go. Just come with us." And if we can help you out or take care of something, we'll try. We'll do it. So, there's nothing else to it, man. We just want to grow the sport. At the end of the day, that's all we want to do. We want to show everyone, why MMA is cool, why it's an art form, and once people see the cage in the room or see the mats in the room, and then they kind of sit down, and within 5-10 minutes, almost everyone is hooked. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no one that walks out of there and goes, "This sucks." Unless it's really unorganized, or unless there's horrible music, or unless there's only 2 fights. That's about it. I mean, the sport speaks for itself. So just let that translate to the audience.
I have to ask this because I think it's really important for people to kind of get perspective. When you said that you kind of went through kind of a moment where you had to restructure things for the business, and obviously that's got to be a hold, but how hard was it when you could see the growth of this to be waiting on the sidelines to then return? How difficult was that time period?
It was, I don't care. Seeing the sport grow, especially in California and with camo, and seeing more and more great instructors opening up gyms, and you can't hate that. I love that. And shout out to Sparstar. I love Sparstar. They're kind of I'm not going to lie, I love their events. I'm inspired by them. To me, the hardest part about that was what happened to us, and how somebody that was close to us did something that was detrimental to my family, detrimental to my business. But it's life, and it is what it is. And luckily I had a great partner and a great friend, and then we just said we're not going to let anyone bring us down or stop us. So I think the hardest part was what actually happened. But when the sport's growing, you're sitting on the sidelines, I'm still a fan. I'm just stoked. I would never tell someone else they can't do this or not do this unless they were hurting the fighters. That's about it.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess it's okay. You don't have to view everyone as competition. You don't have to. So, and going back to I guess with my environment, In-N-Out, BJs, the beer equipment company I work for, they always just say, you just focus on you, everyone, and let everyone else succeed, and hopefully everyone can succeed. And I guess this is just how I been doing business.
Well, the other thing about working in a restaurant industry is you learn how to work with people very quickly. You learn how to do certain things that is in a hospitality sort of branch that does have a lot of crossover when you are actually taking care of audiences. Audiences are a different beast, and they require just as much need for attention as a fighter does. So being able to understand 2 of those parallel wants and needs, it's a skill set that not everybody always has. It's why you go to some shows and the fighters might be taken care of, but the audience is just sit wherever, we don't care. Just take care of yourselves. So that's really, really cool to see. I do appreciate, though, because I did see, like I said, I saw such a transformation from Jordan and from Milton when they went on their Belize trip. They had such a great time. They came back. I didn't know Johnny as much at the time. I still really don't know him personally.
Okay.
But I've seen him play poker, and he's okay. But, I know of his reputation. I know people who know him. And, he in the little that I've seen him and got to hear him talk, he was very, very pleased with it. And Albert, man, taking somebody home and showing them that and allowing them to contribute in a way that maybe they didn't even get to contribute before and give back. It changed him. That dude was like literally just being like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do I have to go back and do I have to stay there? And you're just like, that's the type of thing that you see that makes an impression on fighters, and it definitely takes care of them. So it is good to hear that you guys are taking care of them next week. However, we have an event next week that we have to talk about that we haven't even gotten to. I just like to get the origin story first. Tell me a little bit about this event that's coming up on the 27th, sir.
Pasadena Fight Night, July 27th. Doors open at 6:30. There is going to be an after party in downtown Pasadena. Everyone is welcome to our events. We want to be family friendly. That's why we chose Pasadena. It is considered a combat sport, but we want to portray more of the art form and just kind of let the competition speak for itself. I'm just so excited. I get so amped, man, right before every single event because I'm just a fan, and it's great to now I know way more fighters on a personal level, and I know all the coaches on a personal level. So it's just my dream was to kind of make amateur MMA more structured, more safe, kind of more, what's the word? I guess. I love what Camo's doing. I want to support Camo. I think that making the sport safer is important. I think putting judges in the right place that are trained is super critical for the future. Putting referees in there that know what to look for, that know submission holds, that know what things are. The same thing goes for grappling. It's just so we have 13 fights scheduled, and just come out and have a good time. If you've never been to an event, this is the perfect platform for you. And we've been in Pasadena last night. We'll be in Pasadena tonight promoting. We've been all over Pasadena.
I do want to really give you guys a major compliment, which is I'm exhausted just thinking of the miles that you're putting in, because I see you guys at Black House. I see you guys consistently doing drop-ins at gyms. I want to say I saw you at like Chad George's and all these different places that, it's hard to tell people, like, you don't just throw an event. You don't just have people show up out of nowhere. I used to produce comedy events on a monthly basis, and I would tell people, it'd be like, hey, if you're trying to replicate this, and I liken it to when people are trying to do privates in jiu-jitsu or grappling, and I say, the people don't just show up. And people would go, what do you mean? I go, you think these people just came to see me do comedy? No, that took months of like, hey guys, every day I'm going to pass up with you guys. Are you guys coming? Okay, cool. And then you build into certain mathematical equations of here's your drop off. Here's how you're going to retain people. But I told them, I was like, yeah, it sounds like fun, but getting 100 people here to just watch a comedy show for performers they don't know, you're producing on the side, so it's never ending gig. But I see you guys with your hat every single place that you're going, even to the point where before we do this interview, yesterday I see you guys out real late and drinking and enjoying yourselves, and I was like, well, you better show up for this interview, because if you don't show up, we're gonna have issues right now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Albert's not drinking, he's training, he's motivated, he's fired up. It's very contagious. I think I feed off some of their energy. So you see these guys wake up at 7, go train, go work, come back, train, and then they hang out with us. Like, it's like, what can I complain about, man? I only worked 8 hours a day, and now I'm sitting down, and it's cool. We put our highlight reel up on a couple of the restaurants, and they're going to stay in a loop, and so people can see the sport, grow the sport. I guess the truth is there's 3 of us. There's a partnership. We have an understanding, and if we have resources now that they're not just ours. If you're with us, if you love the sport, we love the sport. Why would we not want to assist you and help you grow or make sure you get the right care? A lot of fighters need a medical attention, and they don't have that, and that's important. Not just from a promotion standpoint, just as a person. Like, you get injured a lot, and a lot of them don't have health care, and they're young. Why can't we got to try to help, and we all got to work together. That's why I love Camo. Camo brings in all these medics and brings in a doctor and talks about suspensions in a healthy way. And those are tough conversations that you need to have with people. Like, hey, you got to wait 30 days. You got to wait 2 weeks to train. Like, it's just let your body heal.
Yep.
So we want to just keep doing that. But we can be three places at once, and I don't know if anyone else can. I suggest, grow, like create a staff, create a partnership. I want everyone to succeed, man. As long as the sport's growing, you and I still have jobs, so we're good, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this much. I very much enjoy this. It's so hard to tell people exactly how the sport operates and works just because I tell them, creating shows like this, for my goal is to get grappling on cable sports.
Right.
Because I look at that and I go, we talk about Tom Brady for like 5 months at a time. And I just don't care, Like, yeah, he's good. Yeah, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm going to watch some games. But you know what? When these guys obsess and have shows that cross over into each other on ESPN that go on for days and days, I'm like, there are other sports, and I think this is a harder sport. And quite frankly, when they don't get the recognition that they deserve, I'm always like, well, we need to do more to help people and educate them, because we still have some establishments, and I'm glad that you guys go the family friendly route, but we do have some establishments that when you go there and you say, hey, are you showing the fights, and they go, no, we're a family establishment, we don't show that violent bluff, and you're like, okay, maybe you don't see the CTE happening in other sports, but like, good stance there, everybody.
Yeah. Or the steroids,
Yeah, we're the only sport with steroids. I'm so sorry, I forgot. I just tell people, the hardest part about trying to be a visionary in something that is growing is that you have to show it to them. And you have to get that trust to say, come along with me. I promise you, we're all trying to get there. It's just, I'm going to need you guys to support this. I'm going to need you guys to come along and do more than just be an active participant. I need you guys to be people who are speaking to us and talk to us and give us that feedback. And so I think that monitoring that is very important. Tell me a little bit about these 13 fights, because you guys have 13 fights. That's a good amount. It's in Pasadena. It's on the 27th. What can we know about that?
Well, geez. So the matchmaking is done by Dustin.
Okay.
And so I kind of do like more like what I specialize in is like part of production, part of making sure everything's running smoothly, fan interaction, fighter interaction. We do have a title fight. The 145 belt should be up for grabs. That should be with Constrictor Cruz and Luis, two phenomenal athletes. Luis is very, very exciting. He's fought for us before. He loves to swing. And Constrictor Cruz, man, like he's been around for a long time. He's such a nice guy. That dude works a lot. Like I just saw him at Black House the other day, and he got off work at 1 a.m. and there he was back sparring Friday. And people knew that they would have nothing but respect for that guy. And he's so humble. So very excited about that. I need to pull up the fight card because I honestly I apologize, but
I would make sure to get things. I would err on the being right side than just you going, we've got a guy named
I don't want to pull an Oscar De La Hoya.
Larry, he's good. I like him. No kidding. Especially when Ariel Helwani had to ask Tito Ortiz this week. He was like, "Hey, is Golden Boy MMA dead?" And he's like, yes. Like, in so many words, it's dead.
Yeah.
So,
13 fights, doors open 6:30. I think it's a good amount. I think it's a fair amount. 16 is kind of a lot. 10 is a little too little. Right around there. You want because sometimes fights go quick. I remember our second event, it was just like, oop, first round, oop, first round, oop, first round. Before you know it, it's only 8 o'clock. And you're like, dude, you want everyone to hang out all night and feel good and just enjoy themselves. And the fighters, something that we really try to do is just we do try to tell the fighters, hey, promote yourself. If you need us, we'll help you. And so that's been very, very helpful. Very awesome to have them. Like they're hustling, they're grinding, they're talking, they're inviting all their family and their friends and bringing all everyone that's important to them. And so we kind of just let that grow organically. We don't want to be that promotion that forces anything upon anyone either, including the fans. So I know that recently I was told some business advice to just do way more heavier advertising and be way more aggressive and to up our prices too, which was something that we talked about and discussed. But for now, we're staying in the infancy stage. We know what we want to do, and we want to include everyone. So that's basically that. But the fight card, I mean, I don't know. I haven't been to an amateur night, and I know I'm speaking as a fan, a hardcore fan. There's just so rare that it's ever boring. I love every second of it, man. I love when the cage door locks. I love when the lights dim, and everything else. I'm quiet and I'm mesmerized.
That's so cool. What would you say that you guys have learned the most just between your first and your fifth event? Because, again, putting on the events is a different beast. And, as somebody who's worked in television and somebody who's seen it happen, you kind of prepare for everything, literally everything. Recently, even, the people who do have their stuff together, which is CXF and the LXF people, they once had their truck overheat. And, it was weird. I felt bad in the sense that, again, because I've worked for different shows, when I went up to them and I was just like, oh, you guys, your energy went out. It's short-circuited. Where's your backup circuit? And they go, what? And I go, oh, no. Yeah. Like, then I start having panic attacks and, like, I can just hear producers yelling and, like, from my PTSD in the background. So, I'm very sympathetic to those things. But what have you guys learned from, putting that first event to where you guys are right now?
First event to now right now. The first event, man, we were stressed. Respectfully, we were worried. If someone's due to show up at 4:00, they might show up at 6. And if someone's supposed to show up at 9 a.m., they might show up at noon. And there's nothing you can do besides just be prepared, get logistics. I remember, the second event, we decided to purchase our own cage. And we're like, we could put it together maybe 3 hours. Putting together that cage ourselves took almost 9 hours.
No.
And because we're perfectionists and we want to do everything right, and there's no instructions. So
well, that cage breaks. Some issues happen. You don't want to go viral for that.
No, definitely not. And luckily, nothing happened. And people said, "Hey, the cage works great. Thanks for the better mats." And we were like, "Okay, cool." We learned a lot, just patience, understanding, be more present in the community. So we're more involved with like local gyms, local schools, local businesses. We've been talking to not just fitness too, like, hey, like you're a flower shop in Pasadena. Here's a free ticket. Just come. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you run a tanning salon out here. Like, just here's a free ticket. Come. People are now approaching us. We actually got approached by the LA County Sheriff's Department recently, and we did a fundraiser with them. It was amazing. And then they asked for 30 tickets, and we were like, you know what? Why not? Like, you guys are a big part of the community. Like, here you go.
Yep.
And it's crazy because if you ask, you might get a yes. And we've learned the same thing. So we've gone to local businesses, local gyms, and been like, hey, can we borrow a mat? Or hey, can we borrow gloves? Or hey, do you have extra tape? And they say yes. And it's awesome. And we can get things done. So we learned to panic less, learned to be more patient with everything, and definitely learned how to approach our ideas better. So like, hey, how do you guys feel about this walkout music? Can we use your highlight reels? Are you interested in doing post-fight interviews? Before we were kind of like, hey, you got to do a post-fight interview with this guy at this time. Just ask him. And then by the time that interview comes around, they're way more comfortable. They may not know you, but I can do a much more friendly introduction, and now the ice is broken and it's over. Like, now you have friends for life, hopefully, after our events. So
yeah, that's a tough balance to hit, because for the company, pre-interviews are great, but both for the interview and the fighter, it's an interesting balance because you want that promotion.
Yeah.
But the essential organization of the interview is, hey, you think you're gonna win? And the guy goes, yeah, dude, and I'm also super hungry. Cool, tell me how you're gonna win. No. Okay, well, see you guys tomorrow. That was exciting. Yeah, so I know it's a tricky beast. But at the same point, I think it's one of those things that I've told people. I'm like, I usually, when I ran grappling tournaments, we had a couple guys who were closing out, and we were offering a cash prize. And when they were going to close out, they're just like, oh, we're part of the same team. And I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Let me tell you how that impacts us. And they're like, what do you mean how it impacts you? I don't care. And I was like, cool. That means that we won't have more cash prizes for you in the future. that means that you're screwing over other people, your future, their future. And
Right.
more importantly, if I have no footage of a final match, I can't sell that to investors. I can't sell that to sponsors. So
Right.
it's the same thing that I usually tell with the fighters, which is, listen, nobody really wants to talk before. I get that. But they do it at the UFC for some reason. And if you clue them in on what those reasons are, they tend to be like, oh, yeah, I can spare 3 minutes,
Yeah.
and bringing them in on the process. But, whenever I get asked to do pre-interviews before that, I'm like, well, let's talk about why we're excited, or let's take them out of their element. That makes it a little bit more intriguing to everybody involved. So, that's usually where I allow my creativity to come in. But I know for sure that minute I make eye contact with a fighter who looks like they don't want to be there, I go, this
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
rough.
Can't force anything. Yeah.
No, but that's a good policy to
Yeah.
be open with them at the very beginning. And I'm telling you, as the guy on the side with this, it makes everybody like us much better.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah. And
So,
honestly, without you guys, like, I'm so impressed. Like, I looked you up a few months ago, and dude, you are everywhere. So
yeah.
you say we're everywhere and that our hats everywhere, but that's like a fun thing. It's way different to do one-on-one interviews, to make the time to listen to people, and to like fighters in such a different way because it's more intimate. I mean, I know that other people are listening, but this is a one-on-one conversation. So, like, what you're doing as well, like, is super crucial for these guys. It's a therapeutic almost, and so it's really appreciated by us. And so, whatever we can do, like, I want your brand to blow up, like, hopefully, even more. But you got a lot of content, man.
I
It's
appreciate it.
very,
Yeah,
very impressive.
again, it's mostly because years ago, and I mean, this is, I'm sure, when you have the origin stories. Years ago, it was just my friend and I saying, why don't we start a podcast? And we never imagined we'd have interviews with people. We didn't know what the technology was. We didn't know how any of that worked. I just know that because we thought we would never interview people, we
Right.
just said, why don't we have me do impressions of athletes that I'm pretty good at doing? And that was as far as we thought we would have guests. And it was right
Wait,
at the
wait.
very beginning when we were doing. I
You
used
have
to.
to do an impression now. Like, what do
Yeah,
you
okay.
need, dude?
I can do. All right, I'll give you one I haven't dusted off in a while because he hasn't been fighting. But I'll tell you this. Homie, I really like what you guys are doing out there. It's for the Diaz brothers. Whenever we see all you guys with MMA Events Inc.
209? You?
Yeah, dog, it's 209. Shut up, bitch. I'm in the middle of time right now, and it's hard because sometimes my nasal just don't work. Um, so we would do those impressions, and we would just
Got
say,
it.
like,
Got it.
create the essence of the character so that way you can have fun. So it's not just always me and him creating these jokes as narrators. You bring them in on the process. So
Yeah,
the
definitely.
very first episode we did, it was a fight between Carlos Condit and GSP. And my co-host is in love with Carlos Condit. So
Right,
much
right.
that he thought that Condit won that fight. And I had to tell him in very nice ways, like, Condit's amazing, but he did not win that fight.
Okay, yeah.
So I had him, I was like, why don't you interview GSP? And he was like, do you do GSP? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay. So I brought him on, and it was just being like, I understand that you thought Mr. Condit won that
I
fight,
didn't
but
expect this to be that funny, but it's hilarious, dude.
very, very tricky to do GSP voice because he gets confused by what he almost says himself, even though he is in charge of his own brain power, but sometimes not as much. Yes, no? So we would just do that, and then when the Ultimate Fighter was coming on,
Yeah,
I would tweet jokes, and I would at the athletes,
right.
and I forgot they could read and watch those. And I don't mind because I have a policy of I don't tweet or say a joke about somebody that I wouldn't say to their face. So I'm
Right,
very
right, right,
clear on, if I make fun of you, I will say this to your face. And
Yeah.
I have a policy of that. And we had a couple athletes who thought they were funny because I wasn't just saying, like, this athlete sucks, F this guy, F his wife. It was just me being like, yo, this guy's stand-up is so bad. How bad is it? And you'd be like, oh, I got jokes. And they didn't know at the time that I was writing and contributing for like the Tonight Show, and I have a background in late night television. So to me, I saw that I could fill a void, and that I have
Right.
experience in working in television and creating and pulling out narratives. And so to me, it's really, really important when I hear an athlete talk that I say, how do we make them unique? And how do we make them
Wow.
different? Because everybody, by the end of an interview, you should have a different experience talking to one of them than you do from another. So a lot of that's active listening, because sometimes you go in there with your prepackaged, hey, how'd that fight go? And then you go, that was a good fight. Well, good interview.
Yeah.
Interview conclusion. Like,
Great leg kick. How are
yeah.
you feeling? Like, okay.
And I'm 100% willing to concede that as I continue to grow as a martial artist myself,
Hmm.
I learn more and more. But I'm sure I could watch interviews from 6 years ago where I go, I didn't know that was a punch to the throat. Like, what? Who calls it that? So I I've always said though that I can always lean at my ability to connect with people. And so as I've learned more, I've gotten to grow. And last week I got to do commentary for an event called Subversive, and I got a
Yeah,
very
yeah, man. Wow. What an event.
it was a really good event, man.
It looked beautiful.
It
I'm so stoked
was.
for them. Good for them, man.
Yeah, dude. And the guy who put it together, he's a guy who runs a CBD company, brings in a rival CBD company to actually present one of the two teams to go
Right.
in the main event. And talk about, like, you could bring in any organization possible, but you're like, CBD, you do CBD, just come on in, I like you guys. So you bring
Yeah.
in a competitor to actually be part of your program. And but I got a very nice compliment from somebody yesterday who was in the main event. Gio Martinez said very nice
Yeah,
things in the
yeah.
interview with me. And Gio at the very end, he was like, you really know what you're doing. And it was like, oh, you're listening. Oh,
I
right.
do.
Oh, okay, cool. So you get complimented in certain ways, but that all comes from humble beginnings of like, all right, we're going to do an impression show where I'm never going to interview anybody, to now that these opportunities have afforded themselves, you just kind of go like, all right, I'm going to ride this wave. And now when I do live event coverage, it's that same mission of make the athlete feel like they did something that was epic. Like,
Yeah.
once they win, it's like communicating that to an audience member and saying, if you've never been in a fight or never trained martial arts, here's why that was exceptional. And,
Yeah.
telling a good story. So I appreciate that. And I think it's very funny because when you mention the beginnings, the origin stories of your own thing, it's like, oh no, I know that feeling. Well, let's do this. One of the things that I'm very excited about for you guys is that you have the event next Saturday. That's on the 27th. However, in the future, you guys will be looking to put together a grappling tournament, which, again, this
Yeah.
is a very grappling enthusiastic audience that we have. And I got to tell you, man, there's nothing I love more than seeing more grappling opportunities for individuals. So,
Definitely.
what was the kind of motivation behind doing more of the grappling events? Because you guys are already super focused on getting the MMA side, but grappling is a different beast.
We started off doing grappling because our original background, especially with Dustin, was karate. And he knew a lot of karate gyms and a lot of American, Shotokan traditional. And we saw more and more jiu-jitsu growing, and we saw some of these karate instructors being asked, hey, can I learn the ground game? Can I learn the ground game? And so Compete, which is one of the largest karate tournaments on the West Coast, happens every year in Ontario, happens to be Shian Muhammad out of Diamond Bar. He's a tremendous guy. He's just said, hey, I want someone to run a grappling tournament, but I want it to be all ages. And we said, okay, we'll volunteer. And we did the first one, and we had a 6-year-old compete. We had an 8-year-old compete. And we had one family come all the way from LA, man, just for like a 4-minute thing, just because their daughter loved it. And we were like, we're onto something here. Like if people love it, and half as much as we do, and they loved it even more than we did, and we were like, okay, no one else is doing this. So now we're full circle. We want to come back to our roots. We want to keep doing what we're doing, and we want it to be successful. So we were going to have like a younger audience in the morning, intermediate in the afternoon, and we want to be more high technical, much more skilled at night. or in the evening, let's say. And that's about it. Like we're gonna actually use some of the local gym instructors. They want to kind of create new rules and new instructions, and we're like, okay, cool. Like whatever you guys want. Like we just want to be a part of it and just help it grow and whatever's happening. And we have noticed more and more grappling coming up, and there's so many people interested in it. And so we know that, if there's more options, more people will come. And that's it. And we saw Submersive and we were like, this is so cool. Like, good for them. Like, this is brilliant. Like, it should be on a bigger stage. It should be better lit. It should be feeling like a rock show sometimes. And then there's some traditional, just one mat, no music. Like, there is, reason for that too. It's a beautiful sport. So that we just want to come back to our roots. That's it. We just want to go back to it.
I got to tell you that it's very nice to know, I guess, where our intersection happened at the very initial onset was I saw some form of marketing that basically said there was going to be a cash prize for an MMA Events grappling competition. And I said, okay. And, all I ever hear from the athletes I work with are, there's not enough opportunities, and nobody gives a cash prize, and I really wish there was a sub-only rule set that would give us a cash prize. And I was like, hey, morons, listen, there's literally an event right here. Go win the money. And I remembered on that particular day, I was working with two of the guys, and they're great training partners of mine, and I just remembered them both saying, like, hey, man, I want to go win that prize. I think I'm going to go do it. And I go, don't be surprised if you guys face each other.
And they did.
Were like, well, not only did they do it, but here's the thing. When they were going up against each other, they were like, well, okay. And I remembered being as a promoter going like, I don't know that there's enough entries for the absolute that would necessitate giving a cash prize that you guys had promised. But you did. And I had such a high respect for that, and they decided to do their own thing. They were like, why don't we do a sub-only match, no time limit, go as long as we go. Yeah. And people were like, why don't you split the money? And they're like, nah, we're not going to split. We're just going to, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I remembered the fact that I'm like, so many people would try and weasel out of that, or they'd use their back parachute that's like, aha, I said if there was 90 people to show up, we'd give that one, haha, and run away. But I was so pleased that you guys stay true to your word, even when you really didn't have to. Like, from every form possible, you did not have to. And that's when they came over and we did an interview where we just talked about the clips, and I played the whole match between the two of them.
Right, yeah.
And I distinctly remember saying, like, I don't care what these guys do, because they do a little bit of MMA and they do a little bit of grappling. I'm going to be interested in what they do, and I'm always going to kind of keep an ear to the ground. And, like you said, you take a little time off and you have some stuff that you're doing. But it was so nice that when you guys were rebranded and you started coming back, you're putting together these great opportunities. I see how much care you're putting into the athletes. We pay attention to those things. And specifically, it's part of the reason why we get excited that you guys have an event coming up next Saturday, and then in 6 weeks or so, or a little bit later, and maybe in a couple months, there's going to be an opportunity for grapplers to go out, and I would highly encourage them to go out and compete at that.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that event. One of the things that we got complimented on, and one of the things we did want to do, and I do want to talk about, we put a TV up, and it was a digital scorecard, and the feedback we got was immediate. And even the grapplers were like, that was cool. No one else was doing it. Now everyone's doing it. So they're like, okay. It was just kind of a simple thing. It was an app that we stole. Like, we borrowed, like, I don't know, like, we kind of built our own little thing off this app platform, and just were like, okay, cool. It's like, you press this button and it shows 2 points. So it was cool.
I got to be very, very honest with you. Grapplers are not hard to amuse sometimes. Just the lack of love and attention we get. Sometimes even having a scoreboard that you can see is just enough for us to go, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And, it makes it fun. It's a different beast to be there and do your thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if, now that you guys have more time, especially between the MMA events and the grappling events, that you're going to find those little things that are your niche that you go, really? That's all you wanted was this? Yeah, have some, have two. Whatever, kid,
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's very cool. Let's do this. Let us put a pin on the conversation for now, but let's remind everybody it is going to be July 27th. It is from the
Yeah.
Pasadena Convention Center.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be out of there. If people are looking to get tickets, where should they go?
MMA Events Inc.com. I would prefer buy it from a fighter. Support your local fighter, man. These guys are working so hard. If you don't, I'm going to show you. I answer every single message right here. So hit us up on Instagram. That we have fighters, vendors, everyone, gyms. It's blowing up. We want to. If you have a question, we'll answer it for you. If you say, hey, where do I find a local fighter? We'll set you up. Fighters will go to your house. This is how this is how they support their careers.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing better than that. There is nothing better for us than knowing that we help someone be able to train more or do what they love more.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
And I also have to say, between that, if people are watching maybe from outside California, is there going to be some sort of way that they can watch? And if so, how?
Yes, probably the biggest news, and I'm going to do my sales pitch. Here we go. The biggest news ever in amateur MMA is the commentary team of Adam, according to Woods, and Blake Bulletproof Troop. These guys are going to be on the mic doing whatever they want, talking about however they want. You're talking about two huge fans of MMA with a professional perspective. They are going to be doing their thing. They'll be streaming it. They'll be doing a shout out. We were doing promo videos at 2 a.m. last night. Completely sober. Like Adam was sober. Blake's not drinking. Like they're just like, we're full of energy all the time. So, so you'll be able to find out through them. They want to handle that. And so we're just going to let them, they were like, we want to own this. We want to have fun. Of course. So we're here to support whatever. And it's same thing. If anyone ever wants to do commentary, call us. Anyone wants to do interviews, call us. Like anyone wants to be a sponsor or pick or likes a certain fighter, just call us or call them. It's an open door policy that we have.
If you don't know, I mean, we obviously know and love Adam. Adam's very near and dear to our show.
Yeah, man.
Blake's unique. Blake is his own person in this sense. He rides the fine line between being a professional wrestler in MMA or an MMA guy who is possibly a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
You will see him at professional wrestling shows, going up to people and, and bruises, if you would.
Yeah.
Going up and doing his thing there. But he is like the definition of character, and I'm so glad that you guys have him. And the nice part is you have Adam Woods to do the best that he will in terms of interpreting the words and jargon being spouted by one Blake. Those two are very nice individuals. They're fans and friends of the show, and we love them, so we send them the best.
But definitely.
Just, again, I cannot, I know I'm saying this like this, and I want you to be very clear. This is a warning sign. So that way you guys know you're in for what you're in for when you hear Blake talk. So you probably want to watch that if you're not going to be there live.
I know. Seriously, man. I can't wait to go back and watch it and hear it. I can't wait. Hey, can I give away tickets? I'll email you or whatever.
Yeah.
We're having a will call if you pick somebody listening right now. It's all about growing the sport. We're not lying to you, and that's our number one priority is fighter safety, grow the sport. So we give away tickets all the time. So I'll give you 2, 4. What do you need?
Let's do 4. That way I
Cool.
can give away maybe 2 sets of them, and we'll see what happens.
Right on.
There. But
for sure,
we'll definitely work to do that. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you, and
of course,
super well of the organization to want to show off the local talent out this way. And you guys are, I mean, when you hear someone talent that's actually fighting on this card, you're going to want those tickets. So we'll be in touch with how to give those out. But
cool.
In the meantime, we want to thank you again, Alan. Cannot appreciate what you are doing enough. I love the fact that you guys are making such an emphasis to really get out there and not just put on the events, but become part of the community. So
for sure, we love you, Pasadena. We love you, Belize. Real quick before we leave, Rock LA. You are always welcome there. Rock LA is in downtown LA. It's a robotic outpatient center. If you ever, they take care of a lot of pro athletes, and then now they're specializing in with MMA, ACLs, shoulders. It's just fantastic. If you ever want to interview anyone or just go get a massage in those crazy chairs, bro, you're always welcome, man.
I always look at them in the chairs, and I'm always like just the look that they all have as they're recuperating. I'm not gonna say they look like they went to go to like a whole bunch of ladies getting a spa day, but they're not too dissimilar from it because they all have that
No,
like maximum relaxation.
no.
And so I always see them, and I always want to be like, what housewives from the 50s did they turn into all of a sudden? Just the way that they all look, and they're always just like, oh, could someone bring my Avion? I'm just enjoying myself lounging with my legs up in the air.
Yeah, then when you sit in it, bro.
Oh, I believe it. And the thing is, I know how wrecked they are. So
Yeah,
I know that when their legs are like that, it's actually super helpful.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'll definitely go there and see it. All the guys have spoken wonders of it. So at some point, I think one of the best things to do is do a remote of me living through and experiencing it. Because I'll tell you this much. People ask me all the time, they're like, how do you feel as a grappler? I'm like, I'm dying on the inside. I put up a good exterior, but it's all
Well, let's get you
decay.
healthy, man. Let's keep you competing. So if you ever need anything, let us know, man.
I
We'd be
appreciate
more than
it.
happy to. We'll be in Pasadena tonight, hanging out, local community. Cerizo, Extapa, Barcelona. Shout out to Jack Wang. He owns those three restaurants, and he's one of the nicest dudes on the planet. So we're just super grateful. We love you, Pasadena.
That's great stuff. Alan, I thank you so much for your time, man. It is a pleasure to get
Thank
to
you.
interview you. If we can ever help with getting the word out, and you know what, when you guys are about to put up that grappling tournament, get in touch with us.
Okay.
We'll put it out to the folks who are always looking for more and more grappling opportunities. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you this much: I know you guys. You're always complaining that there's not enough opportunities, and these guys are making some. And for the
Yeah.
MMA athletes who are looking for great places to go ahead and fight for, we look forward to funneling them your way as well and covering the event. So, cannot thank you enough. I want to thank everybody for watching today. I want to make it very clear if you were not following us, you're making bad choices.
It's
Go
true.
follow us at all the major clients. That means at Grappling Hour on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube if you are not subscribing on there. All of those major platforms. We have new content going up almost daily. It just depends on how tired I am, if we're being honest. I host a couple shows. So we hope that you guys are following us there. That way you get to see more and more interviews. You're going to want to keep a look at Verbal Tap later this week. I believe tomorrow we record it, and we will have a special guest to be named later who will take on Kevin's picks for UFC 240. And then we return on Tuesday for another episode of Grappling Hour with the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Rodriguez, who is crushing it. Nick Rodriguez, let me just tell you a little bit about this. I don't know if you know this, Alan, but this young man, he basically said, I'm not being challenged enough. He's a blue
Wow.
belt. He looks like a Walmart version of The Rock. He hates competing with a rash guard. He is always just like, show my muscles.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he qualified for ADCC, winning a series of matches. He's a really gifted athlete, D1 wrestler, and just for funsies at an event in Florida this weekend, said, I don't want one opponent. Give me three. And they said,
What?
okay. So they gave him three opponents that he had at different parts of the night. And he beat all of them, including
Whoa.
one very prominent, I believe is a brown belt, but he's really, really a high caliber grappler. And this is, of course, a blue belt that they have, who also trains with Gordon Ryan and the like. He
Okay.
should be joining us on Tuesday,
Tuesday.
depending on
That's awesome.
uh, how much not steroids he's doing. So we're going to probably see him lift a lot of weights, and if he has the time to chat with me, he will be. But we are in contact with him, and plus more that happened from all the best in grappling this weekend. Again, my thanks to Alan. My thanks to you guys. You
Thank
have a
you,
great rest
man.
of your
Appreciate
day.
it.
It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you guys on the mats.